Nope. 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 Ah, now that's better.
Wow. I mean, this is one of those topics that just, it almost leaves you speechless. You're listening to PP Simmons Radio. My name is Mike Shoesmith. Friend of the ministry, Steve Fletcher, he sent me an email recently, and he said, Barack Obama's going to Berlin to speak this Wednesday on the 19th. And he outlined some things that that are just amazing about the trip, how it relates to his first trip in 2008, and a lot of that many of you will be unaware of. So I'm going to hope to open your eyes here in the next few minutes. This isn't going to be a long show. There'll be links to our material in this video, but I just want to give you guys the brief rundown of what we've discovered here. This will blow your mind, I promise you. I promise you, most of you, 99% of you listening to this, have never heard this material before. Anywhere. This is astonishing, honestly. There is a timeline here that I want you to consider, and it is spectacular. I'm not sure if it's spectacular in a good way or a bad way. It just is. It just is. There isn't anything good about it. It just is. But I want you guys to consider this amazing timeline with me. Try and follow along with me here. If you know the Bible at all, you know that it says, in fact, Jesus himself said, that Satan's seat was in Pergamus, or what's modern day Pergamon. Now, in the late 1800s, a German engineer excavated the Acropolis of Pergamon and shipped it to Berlin, Germany. He rebuilt it and he opened it as a museum there. And the museum opened in 1901. Now, follow the timeline here. 1901, this museum opens up in Berlin at a place, they call it Museum Island, they called it. 1914 comes along, and World War I breaks out, with Germany leading a charge across Europe. And finally, they agreed to an armistice on November 11th, 1918. And the war ended in victory for the Allies and defeat for Germany. You understand that? You understand that, right? There's a lot more to it, obviously. More countries were involved. But at the end of it all, it was Germany who agreed to the armistice and agreed to, basically give up. All right? So 1901, we have this, what Jesus called Satan's seat, moved to Berlin. World War I breaks out, with Germany leading the charge. And they go down for defeat. Now hear me now. 1930 comes around, and the Pergamum altar gets rebuilt, bigger and more impressive. What happens then? 1939. What's going on? Hitler rises, doesn't he? And he rebuilds Germany and the German army, bigger and more impressive, doesn't he? Exactly like the Pergamon altar. Hitler began leading Germany in a march to regain the nation's pride and conquer the world for the pure race. He initiated a campaign to rid the world of all non-Aryan peoples, which caused the deaths of 6 million Jews. And by the way, that is the exact number of Jews currently living in Israel, by the way. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of that. If you go to our blog, you can see the pictures and whatnot and the video that we're going to talk about here. I'll put a link to it in the description section. But isn't that amazing? This thing seems to have something on it. I mean, it's Satan's throne, Jesus said. But it gets even more interesting here as we bring it around to modern day. In 2008, Obama had a replica of Satan's throne built in Denver as a candidate for president. So when they announced him as a candidate for president, he had this. It was people didn't realize the connection here. But hear me now. In July of 2008, Obama went to Berlin, and he made that famous speech. We have the video of his speech up on our blog, that same blog article. But he said in the speech that well, this is what he said. He said, quote, "The walls between old allies and on either side of the Atlantic cannot stand," he said, speaking not far from where the Berlin Wall once divided the city. "The walls between the countries with the most and those with the least cannot stand. The walls between races and tribes, natives and immigrants, Christian and Muslim and Jew cannot stand," he said. So he is going to bring about syncretism. Barack Obama, we've documented this. Barack Obama is a syncretist. He conflates all of the world's philosophies into one. And he uses syncretism as a form of taqiyya, which is lying for Islam. He's practicing taqiyya in order to prop up his Muslim Brotherhood buddies. P.P. Simmons has documented all of this. But here we have syncretism in his speech in Berlin. And then he says this. He says, "People of Berlin, people of the world." Now, what country was he running for president here? Was he? It almost seems like he's running for ruler of the world, doesn't it? Because he says, "People of Berlin, people of the world, this is our moment. This is our time," he said. Here's the thing. That's what he said in Berlin back in July 2008. And then he comes back home to Denver, Colorado, where he builds a replica of Satan's throne in Denver. We have a picture of it. And he stands in front of the Acropolis and he gives his acceptance speech to be the candidate for president. Here we have this guy. He comes right out of nowhere. Who is this guy? A person relatively unknown to the world and still is to this day, would then go on to become ruler of the most powerful nation on earth. What is the attraction to Berlin? Well, guess what, folks? The seat of Satan is there. It was moved. Many of you don't know that a German engineer moved Satan's seat, what Jesus called the seat of Satan, to Berlin. That's why that is where the satanic spiritual connection to Germany, World War I, Hitler, World War II, Obama's trip to Berlin, and then, almost like Satan anointed him to be president. This is amazing stuff, folks. Well, guess what's coming up in 3 days? President Barack Obama will once again return to Berlin to hold a speech at the Brandenburg Gate on June 19th. And according to the White House, he will speak about the deep and enduring bonds between the United States and Germany. Hear me now. What is the Brandenburg Gate? We have a whole expose on the Brandenburg Gate, what it is, where it comes from, etc. But here's the thing. When the Nazis ascended to power, they used the gate as a party symbol. Did you hear me? President Obama will speak at the Brandenburg Gate, which was once a symbol for the Nazi party, folks. Are you hearing me here? Are you hearing me? There is something spiritual. There is a satanic connection between Berlin and world leaders. And I want you to know that Barack Obama, he is an evil man. And he's an evil president. There's something evil about this guy. Many people have seen it. Many people have commented on it. What will happen July the 19th? We're keeping an eye on it. Are you keeping an eye on it? I hope you are. We'll talk to you guys later. We'll talk to you after the 19th, and we'll discuss it. We'll talk about it. All right? Keep your eyes open. You've been listening to P.B. Simmons Radio. My name is Mike Shoesmith. We'll talk to you next time.